Welcome back. What was a successful launch for the i9 7980XE, being Intel's most expensive ever desktop CPU for the general consumer on the Extreme platform, you would figure that Intel was making things happen and making them happen right. Even though they successfully launched and supplied this $2,000 processor, Intel has decided in its entire grace and audacity to go ahead and pull a paper launch for Coffee Lake. You heard that right. Coffee Lake is officially a paper launch. What is a paper launch? Paper launch is when you put a product to market that either you cannot produce or can barely produce. We're not talking about shortages because they can't make them. We're talking about shortages because they never started making them and they just pushed the product to market so that they could grab what we consider mind share. Well, mind share in the tech industry is being able to say that I have this competitive product in this field and you can buy it. Well, in this case, it's a paper launch because that's only if you can find it. We're talking the same issues that Vega had when it first launched. There weren't enough of them. There still aren't. And Coffee Lake is the same way. There are estimations that we will not be seeing enough Coffee Lake processors to actually have them on store shelves until December. Some say as early as November. But at this point in time, I would not expect to see Coffee Lake CPUs really anywhere, except for maybe the locked models, the 8700 and the 8600. And there are even countries and entire markets that did not receive and are not receiving in the next few weeks to month any K SKUs, any 8700Ks or 8600Ks. So why did Intel do this? Why did Intel rush out a product that they couldn't supply? Well, they did it so that they could win back some of the mind share that they have been losing in the consumer markets to Ryzen. This is a dumb business move. This is really stupid because you took what could have been a really good situation by waiting another month when you had the product and turned it into a bad PR nightmare. People are going to remember this. And all of us who thought that, Coffee Lake, finally we've got something that Intel is finally going to kind of come up to the ball and move everything forward, now we can all say that it's pretty much that was a lie. They're not trying to move the ball forward. They're just trying to show everybody, hey, look, we got a product even if you can't buy it. Now, this isn't to say this is the only issue with Coffee Lake. Coffee Lake has teething issues on a paper launch also. As many of the tech reviewers, I'm not necessarily a reviewer, but as many of the tech reviewers have noticed, depending on what motherboard you got, the same CPU is drastically different in performance, in spec, and everything else. So not only did they release a CPU they can't stock, they did not give motherboard manufacturers or vendors the time to come up with a BIOS to make it a legitimate platform. Yes, these are some of the same issues that we saw in the Ryzen launch. The difference is you could actually buy the processors. That's going to be something completely different there for Intel. Intel has had quite a long time since the last time they did a paper launch, and I can't exactly remember the last time. So this is going to hurt them. This is going to hurt them in exactly the way that they were trying to prevent. This is going to hurt mindshare, because only those who are willing to pay extraordinary amounts of money for a product are going to be able to pick them up. The same way Vega sales are hurting AMD right now with, all the cards being marked up $100, $200 above what they should be sold at. We've already seen companies like Micro Center jack the prices up on the 8700K to $500. It's a $350 to $370 CPU. It shouldn't be $500. As I stated, Intel can't stock them, and they can't keep enough inventory stocked as of this point in time. And we have companies like Newegg who have stated that they're not going to receive any more for shipment until the 10th, I believe, of this month. Even at that doesn't mean a whole lot because they can't tell us how many. And with other countries not even receiving the K SKUs, I'm doubting it's going to be very many at all. We're going to have to look forward to probably at least mid-November before this becomes even remotely solved. And another reason that's pointing in that direction, and another reason why it looks like Coffee Lake was brought out way too prematurely, is the motherboard manufacturers are only making Z370 motherboards. That's it. We're not going to receive any of the other motherboards until sometime in the first half of 2018. And from what it looks like, the way it's worded and kind of the roundabout that things are going with this, it looks like we won't be receiving the rest of the SKUs until the first half of 2018. What's bothersome about that note is when they say first half, that means second quarter usually. So we're not talking about January, February, or March. We're talking about April, May, or June before the full Coffee Lake release is done and we start receiving the other motherboards and the other products in this release. That's an issue because if they're not going to have enough stock and be able to say Coffee Lake is here until the second quarter, this is going to kill sales for Coffee Lake. I mean, yes, they're going to sell a lot of, or every 8600K and 8700K they can produce, but all of the rest of the chips, this is going to hurt sales because you're going to be getting closer to the time period of Ryzen 2 or the next rendition of Ryzen. It's going to be coming out, sometime probably second quarter, third quarter of next year. Coffee Lake will just finally be the rest of the way out. Who knows when Dell, HP, or any of the main manufacturers for business computers are going to be able to sell Coffee Lake systems because the processors aren't ready, because they don't have them out, because they're not able to meet the demand or the supply or whatever reason. And at this point in time, this is purely a supply issue. This is not a demand issue. It would be a demand issue if Intel would have released, a couple 100,000 processors worldwide, and each retailer received 2,000 processors and they all sold out. This does not appear to be the case. Micro Center, in a Reddit forum, told one customer that they received like 10. That's what they received at the store, like 10. 10 8700Ks. Well, that's an issue. How many do you think Newegg probably received? 900? Maybe? They were selling them roughly at the cost that they should be selling them at them if they had purchased 1,000 CPUs. And this is all public knowledge. It's in some of the articles that I have rolling in the background, and you can find it online. Intel, I believe, has really screwed the pooch with this Coffee Lake release. No different than the way I feel that Ryzen screwed the pooch when it first came out, being that the platform wasn't ready, but at least they had the CPUs ready. Intel doesn't have CPUs to sell, and Intel has screwed over their motherboard manufacturers now, themselves, and literally the reputation trying to sell a product they don't have, just so they could say, oh, we're on top. We have the best performing CPU in this market. You can't have the best performing CPU if you don't actually have one to sell. If the consumer can't buy it, it does not exist. That's why Vega is a failure for the most part. If the consumer can't buy it, it does not exist. And the only thing you do is create more bad press and create more bad reputation and lower your company's goodwill and cause more issues for yourself when you do this kind of thing, just so that maybe consumers will go, well, I want that new i7, and end up buying a Skylake instead or a Kaby Lake instead because they have no idea the Coffee Lake doesn't exist. It's not for sale. No one has one to sell them. And stupid customers are gonna fall for this. Anyone who buys a computer between now and when Coffee Lake fully releases, whenever Intel is able to produce them, had better watch what their salesman is pushing on them, because I will guarantee that it will be an old SKU. It will be a 7700K. You will not receive a Coffee Lake. But most consumers are never going to understand this, and they're going to feel like they were buying the best of the best. And there you go. There's more bad reputation for Intel based off a stupid business move. Intel had all the time in the world to bring Coffee Lake out when it was ready and not push it so fast, but they chose to do the dumb move and push it out quick, even though nothing was ready for the release. Ryzen had to be released. I'll give AMD a little bit of a pass on that. though they should have given the motherboard manufacturers more time. Intel had all the time in the world and refused to use it just so they could say they had the best thing in the market, even though it doesn't exist. I kind of like to go over the more of the business aspects and what it means in the industry, whether it be an issue, a positive, a good launch, a bad launch, a good product, a bad product, from more of a business aspect. I'm into the technology, and I'm into the business and the real world applications of this hardware. And in this case, Intel screwed that up for themselves. Alright, well, if you like what I do here, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe. If you don't like it, there's 1,000 other tech channels for you to choose from. Maybe one of them will suit your needs a little bit better. I'm more than happy to have a discussion down in the comments to anything that you feel I may have left out or may have too harshly criticized. If you want to know any more information or any of my thoughts or feelings on something, go ahead and let me know. I'll be more than happy to discuss them with you. And this is, as I said, it's more of a tech channel as far as business goes and as the hardware goes, not so much about what's the better gaming card or what's the better whatever. There's enough of those already in the market. Alright, till the next one.